Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. Indeed, we are all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship, and that's what our next conversation will be all about. I'm very excited to be joined by the Executive Vice President of Succession Capital Alliance, and that is Michael Rothman. Michael, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you, Shalom. Nice to see you.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you. And we're going to certainly talk a little bit about Succession Capital Alliance, your story, and the important work that you're doing for your clients. But I always love to get to know the story behind entrepreneurs and people making a difference. So, Michael, tell us how you became passionate and the subject matter expert in your line of work.
So I actually joined with my business partner, Julian, in 1999. And in 1996, Julian created this concept of leveraging life insurance for high net worth individuals. So prior to 1996, the only way for these wealthy clients to buy the life insurance that they needed to protect their businesses and their estates was to pay cash. So he created this concept, and I was in the insurance industry, brand new, had no idea really what I was doing. But I really wanted to move up into the higher net worth space, really get a better understanding of how to help wealthier clients with more complex issues. So I started to do the work. I started to get my CFP and work as best as I could in that higher net worth space. And when I got introduced to Julian in 1999, I knew that was the best opportunity that I can get to accelerate that. He was at that point already, I would say, a legend in our industry and had, really made a splash in that concept. So when we started joining, I now had the opportunity to build my business inside of Julian's platform, and he gave me an opportunity, and within 10 years, we became business partners. And today, 22 years later, we are, in this whole different stratosphere, and he and I continue to run the company together. We are partners and in the process of actually working on our own succession plan, which I'm sure for the entrepreneurs who are listening is an important thing to consider. So with that being said, we've done now in the last 20 years, over $50 billion of life insurance that we've written through this program. We work with thousands of wealthy families around the country, almost all of which, Shalom, are entrepreneurs. I mean, very few of our clients are not business owners or, own large amounts of real estate. And so they're all entrepreneurial in whatever they've done to get to this level of net worth. And it's been an unbelievable opportunity for me. What I love about it is really probably two or three things. First is the entrepreneurs I work with are really inspiring and interesting, and in my experience are incredibly generous and just great people to work with. And so that's been an honor and a joy to do. The work itself is extremely complex, which I love the opportunity to be analytical and find ways to solve complex issues. And then I think we're really serving a generational opportunity here, which is something that I enjoy being a part of, allowing businesses to pass from generation to generation and allow the hard work that somebody put in to build something from the ground up, to me is something that's very satisfying and has made me passionate about what I do.
Absolutely, and you're doing some fantastic services for your clients. And I have to ask, because there are a lot of folks, like you said, that are writing life insurance policies, that are involved in helping to provide strategy for clients. What makes Succession Capital Alliance any different, and why should our listeners consider working with you?
Well, that's a great question. And actually, we are different in that we work with thousands of high net worth individuals in this particular concept, and it's all that we do. We've developed the relationships with the lenders that are second to none. Actually, you're in Chicago. The largest lender in this space happens to be in Chicago, Wintrust. But we have developed these unbelievable relationships around the country because of our size and scale. In addition, the insurance carriers themselves endorse us as the firm that should be used. And in reality, Shalom, your listeners shouldn't necessarily be working directly with us. Their financial advisor should be partnering with us. So typically the way that we work is the high net worth individual has a financial advisor in whatever city or location that they're in, that they're comfortable with, they've worked with on multiple levels. And once it's identified that they're, of the high enough net worth, which I would say is at least $10 million of net worth or higher, they have a life insurance need or they already own life insurance and they want to start to look at this concept, it's really their financial advisor that brings us in, and we partner with their financial advisor based on our level of expertise in this space. We are different, but we're complementary and really not in competition with their other financial advisors. We work directly with them.
Absolutely. Again, I'm chatting with the Executive Vice President of Succession Capital Alliance. I'm chatting with Michael Rothman, and we've been chatting a little bit about the unique value add of Succession Capital Alliance and the work that they do, which certainly, I'm hearing a story of a fantastic business success, which we're going to talk about and continue the conversation when we return after a very quick break. You can learn more about Succession Capital at successioncapital.com. And again, we'll continue talking about the services that are provided, as well as, of course, how you could get in touch with this fantastic team. And bonus, later on in the program, we will also talk about the SCA Foundation, which certainly is something very unique for a business to have. So we'll talk more all about these topics. In just a moment on Get Down to Business, you can get to my website, shalomklein.com. That's where you can download the past 8+ years of shows all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Back to Get Down to Business. I'm chatting with Michael Rothman, the Executive Vice President of Succession Capital Alliance. We've been talking a little bit about the unique value add of Michael and your team, which is great. Loved hearing the story about you and Julian and sort of coming together and really developing the gold standard. So speaking of gold standard, what is it that Succession Capital Alliance does, Michael? Why and why does it matter to our listeners?
Well, it's a great question, and we actually work in a lot of different arenas inside of the high net worth space. But generally, the most common that we see is you have business owners that have built a very successful business. They built a large real estate portfolio, something that is worth a lot of money. And typically, in the cases that we're working on, it's usually north of $25 million, and in many cases, hundreds of millions of dollars. And they built this asset, and in many times, Shalom, it's illiquid. And it's not something that they can readily sell. And it's something that they many times feel very close to and want to keep inside of the family and pass to the next generation in some capacity. Well, most of your listeners may or may not know that one of the issues that these business owners face is when they pass this to the next generation, there is roughly a 40% what's called estate tax. And there's also state estate tax for states like Illinois and California and other states. That is on top of that, but 40%. So if you have, for example, $100 million estate, there's going to be an estate tax in the neighborhood of $30 or $40 million, depending on other factors. There are some exemptions that can reduce that, but you're looking at $30 million, I'd say is a pretty fair number. And so what happens is when they pass these assets to the next generation, they have to come up with $30 million. They don't have $30 million in cash, and they'd have to either liquidate the company in a fire sale or come up with some alternative which would be painful for the next generation. So in order to protect against that, life insurance becomes an unbelievable tool to own inside of these specially designed trusts that many of the high-end estate planning attorneys around the country can write for them. And then you could buy $30 million of life insurance inside of this trust, and it covers the estate tax when they died. The reality, though, is most of our entrepreneurial business owner clients don't want to write these huge premium checks to pay for the $30 million. There's also other considerations like gift taxes and things of that nature that make it even difficult to get the money into the trust. So this concept that we've created is a much more cost-efficient way to buy this life insurance policy so that the amount of cash flow, the amount of gifts that the client needs to make to buy this, $30 million policy in my example, is cut by usually 50 to 70%. And allows them to keep their money invested in their business and their real estate and still buy the life insurance that they need to protect the assets that they've built.
That's great. And so we're having this conversation in mid-July 2022, and it's sort of that mid-year point, and that's always the point that we've talked about this so many times on Get Down to Business that everybody should be looking at. Their accounting, making sure that their records are in shape. What should people be looking at as it relates to ensuring that they are sort of looking at their big picture financial goals? What sort of things would you assign as homework to our listeners in the week ahead?
Well, it's a great question. And I'm going to focus mainly on this estate planning, estate tax side of things, gift tax, because that has been on the table on almost every conversation that the government's had around tax changes. Right now, your listeners have around a $12 million exemption per individual. So if you have a married couple, the first $24 million as of today, if they died, could pass to their children without estate tax. That is going to change in about 2 or 3 years to about $5 million per couple. What you want to talk to your CPA or your attorney about is when that number goes down from 12 million to 5 million each, or from 24 million combined for a married couple to 10 million, you lose the opportunity of that $14 million differential. So for your wealthier clients who have large businesses or large real estate portfolios, most of their attorneys and CPAs are talking to them about ways to take advantage of gifting to their children or grandchildren that $14 million difference before they lose it, because it's truly a use it or lose it proposition. And it could even get worse depending on other changes that happen inside the tax code, but currently it's set for that to happen. So to me, that would be the first place I would start, is talk to your attorney and your CPA about this gift tax lifetime exemption, and make sure that if there are ways for you to take advantage of it through different structures, that you start to look at this now before it's too late, because it's about a 2-year window before it's going to disappear.
Well, that's as good of a clear homework assignment as I've ever heard one. And the other thing that I certainly would recommend to all of our listeners is to get in touch with the team at Succession Capital Alliance. Again, we've been chatting with Michael Rothman, Executive Vice President, and fascinating story of your own business, which is great. So certainly a small business owner like many of our listeners as well. And I know you've got a lot of good advice on your website as well. So perhaps that's the next bit of homework, is to get in touch. How can people get in contact with you and your team?
Yeah, so our website is, as you mentioned, successioncapital.com. You can certainly reach out directly to us. Most financial advisors, assuming that you work with one, are familiar with us. You can also sort of reach out to them and say, I was listening to Succession Capital and I wanted to hear more about how we can work together with them, and they can sort of reach out directly to us as well. With that being said, I wanted to leave your listeners with one really key point, is if you currently own insurance, which a lot of the business owners that we work with, Shalom, do, that's really the best opportunity to have it reviewed. So you can work, if you do have insurance in place, that would be the best opportunity to work directly with us. Again, you could go through your financial advisor, but if you have policies in place and you'd like them reviewed, that's something that we do at a very high level. And so you can reach out directly on our website, and on our website, all the contact information is there, and we're happy to work with you.
SuccessionCapital.com. But we're not done with Succession Capital Alliance, because after this very quick break, I'll be joined with a representative of the SCA Foundation. We're going to talk about the great work that this company continues to do to make an impact in the community, as they say, striving to push boundaries and expectations to create a better world and future. That's right. We're going to continue our conversation in just a moment. Don't touch the dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. And yes, we are continuing our conversation with Succession Capital Alliance, but in a little bit of a different way. We are chatting with Adrina Movsesian from the SCA Foundation, which, as I said, the mission of striving to push boundaries and expectations to create a better world and future. So first of all, Adrina, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
We've been chatting with Michael and talking a little bit about the business mission, but why does Succession Capital have a foundation? Why is that important to the company?
Yeah, just in full transparency, it honestly was started by Julian, our president and CEO, and his wife, Aline, really just as a way to streamline their personal charitable contributions. They definitely have a heart for giving, and they're passionate about it. And as the company continued to grow, it seemed like the natural next step for them, to continue giving and helping. And, Creating the foundation is a way for, to continue to spread the word in our industry that's important to give, but really so also we can make a bigger impact and bring those along who we work with on that journey. And so we can continue to give together.
Absolutely, and you certainly are doing that and making an impact and inspiring others, which is perhaps one of the most important things that you do. So you're making an impact with some great organizations. Can you give a shout out to any of these projects that you, your colleagues, and and frankly the industry is supporting?
Definitely. One of the first charities it really all started with for us was Big Brothers Big Sisters. We are in Orange County. We've worked with local chapters. They are a great organization that helps mentor young boys and girls and throughout high school and help them get into college and tutoring and really just help them create that friendship. So that's really important. We've worked with Child Help, the Elephant Foundation, the Shea Center, which is therapeutic horseback riding. Habitat for Humanity was a recent one. And actually most recently, we've worked with Second Harvest Food Bank of Orange County to really help end hunger here locally within Orange County.
That's awesome. Some great organizations that, of course, you're supporting financially. But what I noticed through your website, which we'll send people to in just a moment, is that you're really trying to inspire people to, as you say, get involved, to make a difference.
Yes.
With Habitat for Humanity, it's not just about the money, but you can actually get your hands dirty and build a home for a family in need. So can you tell us any of the impact success of where you and the team, including, like you said, your president and CEO, Julian, where you've actually been able to really proudly make a difference?
Definitely. Well, actually, Michael, who you just heard from, him and I and a few other of our team members at SCA, we actually donated our time for Habitat for Humanity in building a few homes within our community, which was an amazing opportunity. Obviously, we met a lot of great people, but just to get out there and get your hands dirty and to be involved, it is a much different aspect, obviously, than giving. And I think it sets the tone for even those who work at SCA and even in our industry that, we're blessed to be able to give financially, but to be able to give time and your hard work, it adds a different aspect to that. We haven't even announced this to our employees, but we're going to be donating our time again with Second Harvest Food Bank. We're going to take a Friday off and we're going to head into their factories and help with packaging food for those in need. So it really just helps resonate with their message and with our message. And, it hits home I think for a lot of people too, to be able to do that.
That's awesome. Well, again, I've been chatting with Adrina Movsesian from the Succession Capital Alliance and the Succession Capital Alliance SCA Foundation, which I think is absolutely awesome. The work that you're doing, hopefully it inspires others to, as you say, push boundaries and expectations, create a better world in the future. You can learn more about the foundation, of course, all of their work at successioncapital.com. There's a tab at the top of the page for the foundation. That's a wrap for us here on Get Down to Business. We'll be back next Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on AM 560 The Answer. Until then, you can subscribe, rate, review, and share our podcasts on your favorite podcast app or visit my website, shalomklein.com. To success, let's get down to business.